High in the hills of Scotland, nestled between green mountains and misty trees, there was a great dark lake called Loch Ness. Its waters were deep, still, and secretive, just the way Nessie liked it. Nessie wasn't like the creatures in the old books or spooky stories. She didn't have sharp teeth or glowing red eyes. Nessie was a gentle creature with smooth green scales, a long neck that curved like a question mark, and big round eyes full of curiosity. She liked to glide beneath the surface, collecting shiny stones from the lake floor and blowing bubble rings just for fun. But Nessie had a secret. She had never, ever seen a human up close. She had heard them, of course, noisy groups that paddled in boats, pointing cameras and shouting, "Where's the monster?" Nessie didn't like that word. She wasn't a monster. She liked singing to frogs and curling up on the soft sand. How could that be monstrous? Still, Nessie was curious. What were humans really like? Why did they want to find her so badly? And would they run away if they ever did? One sunny morning, the loch was especially quiet. The sky was blue with fluffy clouds, and dragonflies zipped through the reeds. Nessie peeked just the tip of her nose above the water. She sniffed the air. Something was different. On the far shore, near the pebbly beach, stood a child. Nessie blinked and ducked under the water. She swam closer, careful not to make a ripple. The child had a backpack, a small telescope, and a sketchbook. He, or she, depending on the version, sat cross-legged on the grass, drawing something with a pencil. Nessie's heart pounded. A real human. And not yelling or stomping, just sketching. Curious, she floated nearer, only her eyes above water now. Suddenly, a strong breeze lifted the child's sandwich off a rock and sent it flying splat, right into the water with a splash. Nessie gasped. She tried to catch it with her nose, but instead created a wave that splashed back, soaking the child completely. "Ah!" the child cried, standing up in surprise. Nessie froze. Then, something even more surprising happened. The child laughed. "That was amazing! Hello? Is someone out there?" Nessie slowly lowered herself beneath the water, but not before the child saw a shimmer of green and the faintest outline of a long, curling neck disappearing beneath the surface. The child's eyes went wide. "Was that Nessie?" From beneath the water, Nessie smiled. Maybe not all humans were so scary after all. The next morning, Nessie woke early. She stretched her long body through the cool water, then peeked up near the reeds. The loch shimmered in the morning sun, and birds chirped from the trees. All seemed normal, except for one thing. The boy had come back. He stood on the same shore as before, backpack slung over one shoulder, and his sketchbook already open in his lap. A little sandwich sat neatly on a rock beside him, held down by a pine cone this time, so it wouldn't blow away again. Nessie watched from behind a patch of lily pads. The boy wasn't like the other visitors. He didn't shout or scan the water with binoculars. He didn't drop snack wrappers or wave his phone around. He simply drew, calmly and quietly, glancing out over the loch with wide eyes. "I know you're out there," he said aloud. Not loudly, just like he was talking to the wind. "You don't have to be scared. I won't hurt you." Nessie blinked. The boy took something from his backpack, a little toy boat made from twigs, leaves, and string. "This is for you," he said, placing it gently in the water, "just in case you like boats too." Then he sat back down and waited. Nessie had never received a gift before. At least, not from a human. She swam quietly beneath the toy boat, nudging it softly with her nose. The leaves smelled like sunlight and pine needles. She liked it, but still, she wasn't sure. Could she trust him? As Nessie turned to dive, her tail brushed against a clump of stones. Clack! And the sound echoed across the loch. The boy jumped up, spinning around. "I saw that!" he shouted excitedly. "I'm Mansory." I didn't mean to scare you. Nessie peeked up, just a little. Her large green eyes crested the surface, watching him from behind a ripple. The boy froze. Their eyes met. For a long second, neither of them moved. Then, softly, the boy smiled. "My name's Finn," he said. Nessie ducked quickly beneath the water, heart fluttering in her chest. A name. He'd given her his name. She swam in slow circles beneath the surface, the toy boat still drifting gently in the current. She felt something new, a flutter of excitement, maybe even joy. Tomorrow, she thought, maybe I'll come a little closer. By the third morning, Nessie didn't even pretend to sleep in. She was already near the shore when the sun rose, hiding just below the surface with her nose resting on a mossy rock. She waited. Sure enough, just as the mist lifted, Finn appeared again, backpack, sketchbook, and that same hopeful smile. "Good morning, Loch Ness," he called. "And good morning to you too, if you're listening." Nessie's tail flipped softly under the water. She was listening. This time, Finn didn't sit right away. He walked to the water's edge and gently placed a stick down on the surface like a floating paddle. "If you're feeling playful," he said, "maybe we could play a game." He took another stick and dropped it farther down the shoreline. "Race you." Then he laughed at himself and sat back down. Nessie stared at the floating stick. Play a game? With a human? Slowly, slowly. She swam beneath the first stick. With one gentle breath from her nose, she pushed it forward. It drifted ahead, bobbing toward the second stick. From the shore, Finn sat up straighter. "Is that you?" he whispered. "That's amazing!" Nessie swam faster, and the stick zipped past the second marker. She popped her head just slightly above the surface, water dripping from her long green snout. She gave a playful little splash. Finn jumped to his feet, laughing. "I knew it! You're real! And you're fun?" Nessie dove under again and swirled in a circle, creating a ring of bubbles that popped in a perfect spiral. Finn clapped his hands. "You're not scary at all. You're brilliant!" Nessie surfaced again. Just a little more this time, enough to show her big, kind eyes and the tip of her curving neck. Finn crouched low and gently waved. "Hi, Nessie," he said softly. "Can I call you that?" Nessie blinked slowly. She didn't mind. She was just about to swim closer when crack! A sharp twig snapped behind the trees. Finn turned. Nessie ducked underwater like a flash. From behind the bushes, a man with a camera slowly stepped forward. He wore a big vest, dark glasses, and a long lens. He stared at the lake. "I heard something," the man muttered. "I know you're out there, monster. I'll find you." Finn frowned. "She's not a monster," he whispered, too quiet for the man to hear. Nessie hid behind a cluster of reeds, heart pounding. Who was that man? And what would he do if he saw her? Suddenly, the game didn't feel fun anymore. Nessie didn't come close to the shore the next day. She stayed hidden in the deeper part of the loch, floating beneath a bed of lily pads, her long tail gently swaying with the current. Her shiny pebble collection lay untouched, and even her favorite bubble ring game didn't cheer her up. She couldn't stop thinking about the man with the camera. He had looked serious, not curious like Finn, but sharp-eyed and greedy. The kind of human who didn't want to understand her, just capture her on film, or worse. Back near the shore, Finn sat quietly on his usual patch of grass. His sketchbook was open, but he wasn't drawing. He just watched the water with a worried look. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I didn't know someone else was watching us." He reached into his backpack and pulled out a roll of twine, a big paper bag, and a pair of sunglasses. "I think it's time we got clever," he added with a grin. Nessie peeked up just her eyes this time and tilted her head curiously. "Clever? Finn began building something strange. He tied sticks together, then covered them with the paper bag. He glued on sunglasses, taped some dark seaweed-like hair, and even used 2 empty juice bottles as eyes. He held up the finished creation. It looked like a very silly, lumpy sea monster puppet. "This," he said proudly, "is the decoy Nessie." Nessie blinked. Finn lowered the fake creature gently into the water. "Tomorrow, I'm going to float this thing near the other side of the loch. Maybe that nosy guy will think it's you and go chasing after it." He looked toward the reeds, where Nessie was still mostly hidden. "I won't let anyone hurt you," he said. "I promise." For a long moment, the loch was still. Then, Nessie swam just a little closer. Not all the way, but close enough that Finn could see her round green eyes shining softly in the evening light. She gave a gentle splash, just once. Finn smiled. "So, we have a plan?" Nessie dipped her head. "Yes, a plan. A silly one. A good one. And if it worked, she might just be able to stay safe and keep her friendship with Finn too." But nearby, back in the woods, the cameraman wasn't done yet. He was setting up his tripod, and Nessie's picture, the real one, was what he wanted most. The next morning, Loch Ness was covered in a soft blanket of fog. The perfect kind of day for a secret mission. Finn stood on the far side of the lake, where the trees grew thick and the bushes rustled with squirrels. In his hands, he held the masterpiece from the day before the decoy Nessie. It looked completely ridiculous. The body was made of sticks and floaty logs. The head was a paper bag painted green with a marker, with sunglasses taped on and leafy seaweed taped as hair. It bobbed gently in the water like a wobbly parade balloon. "I know it looks silly," Finn whispered to the loch, "but that's the point." Behind the reeds, Nessie watched. She kept her long neck low, only her eyes above the surface. The plan was simple. Float the fake Nessie far enough from shore to be spotted. Let the cameraman chase it. Meanwhile, Nessie could swim and play safely on the other side. Finn waded in and pushed the decoy gently into the water. It wobbled once, then floated proudly. "There she goes," he said, giggling. From across the loch, a shout echoed, "I see her!" Finn froze. He turned just enough to see the cameraman stumbling through the bushes, tripod under his arm, camera swinging wildly from his neck. "Yes, finally!" the man cried. "I'm going to be famous!" He ran straight toward the decoy, which was drifting perfectly into the fog. "It's working," Finn whispered. "Yes." Nessie gave a happy little bubble blop 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 and did a spin beneath the surface. But then, disaster. A gust of wind tore across the loch. The fake Nessie's paper head bent sideways. The sunglasses fell off and sank with a soft plop. The juice bottle eyes popped loose and floated away. The decoy slumped sideways and slowly sank. The cameraman gasped. "No, no, no, no." Finn winced. "Uh-oh." Then splash. A giant frog, startled by all the commotion, leapt from the reeds and landed smack in the cameraman's lap. He fell backward into the mud with a loud squelch. Nessie couldn't help it. She laughed. Not just a quiet laugh, a big, bubbly, fizzy laugh that shook her belly and sent a swirl of rings rippling across the loch. Finn burst into laughter too. "Well," he said between giggles, "maybe it wasn't a perfect plan, but it sure was fun." Nessie surfaced fully this time, her long neck arched in a smile, her round eyes full of joy. She swam a loop in front of Finn like a ribbon in water. They hadn't tricked the man for long, but maybe, just maybe, they were becoming more than just a team. Maybe they were becoming real friends. Later that afternoon, after the decoy disaster and the frog incident, the loch returned to its calm, peaceful self. The fog had lifted, and the sun sparkled like diamonds on the water. Birds chirped from the trees, and dragonflies zipped over the reeds. Finn sat cross-legged on his favorite patch of grass, drying out his muddy sneakers. He laughed every time he remembered the man with the camera falling into the mud with that giant frog clinging to his face. "That frog deserves a medal," Finn chuckled. Out in the water, Nessie floated gently on her back, her long green tail waving in the current. Her eyes were bright, and her heart felt light. Something had changed. She didn't feel quite so scared anymore. Not with Finn around. Finn pulled something from his backpack. A small, shiny marble, green and gold, with a swirl in the center. "My best one," he said aloud. "It reminds me of your eyes." He walked carefully to the edge of the water and held it out. "I want you to have it." Nessie swam up slowly. She blinked and gently reached out with her nose. The marble rolled from Finn's hand and dropped into the water. Plop! Nessie caught it before it could sink too far. It sparkled in the light like magic. She loved it. Finn smiled. "Do you have a place to keep things like that?" Nessie looked around, then dipped beneath the surface. Finn waited. 10 seconds. 20. A full minute. Then the water parted softly, and Nessie popped up this time with a curious look in her eyes. She floated just near the reeds and waited. Was she inviting him? Finn took a breath. "Okay, let's go." He slipped off his shoes and waded carefully into the water. Nessie swam beside him slowly, making sure the ripples stayed gentle. And then she dove. Finn held his breath and ducked under too, following as best he could. Just a few feet down, Nessie swam toward a smooth underwater cave. Inside, the light danced in beams through cracks in the rock. The water shimmered in every color. Finn gasped. It was a treasure cave! Not gold or jewels, but nature's treasure. Shiny stones in every color. Glass bottles shaped like fish. Old coins with pictures of boats. Marbles, shells, and buttons. And now, nestled gently on a mossy rock, lay the green and gold marble from Finn. Nessie placed it there carefully. Finn smiled so wide his face hurt. "This is your secret place," he whispered, "and you shared it with me." Nessie twirled in the water, her fins catching the sunlight like a dance. And in that moment, Finn knew he hadn't just found Nessie. He'd found the most magical friendship in the world. The next morning, Finn sat in his favorite spot under a tree. Sketchbook balanced on his knees. Birds chirped above him, and the loch sparkled in the sunlight. Nessie hadn't shown up yet, but that was okay. He liked waiting. He was drawing. Not just any picture, this one was special. It showed Nessie swimming proudly in her treasure cave, surrounded by shiny stones and glass bottles. Finn had carefully shaded the beams of light, made sure her eyes were warm and curious, and even added his marble on the mossy rock. When he was done, he held it up proudly. "There," he whispered. "Perfect." He flipped to a new page and started designing something else, a secret sign to mark Nessie's cave. Not a big sign that tourists would notice, just something he and Nessie would understand. Maybe a swirl shape, like her marble, or a frog riding a wave? He chuckled to himself. Then, the wind picked up just a little. Finn didn't notice at first, but with one strong gust, the top page of his sketchbook fluttered and ripped free. "Now wait!" he shouted, jumping up. The drawing, the one of Nessie's cave, tumbled through the air like a leaf, over the rocks, past the reeds, and right into the bushes. Finn chased after it, heart pounding. But when he reached the thicket, it was gone. He searched under leaves, around tree roots, even checked the edge of the loch. Nothing. His stomach sank. "Oh no," he whispered. "What if someone finds it?" That afternoon, Finn sat by the water, quiet and worried. He didn't draw, he didn't talk, he just stared at the loch. A soft splash made him look up. Nessie rose gently from the water, Her eyes blinked at him with concern. "I lost something," Finn said. "A drawing of your cave." Nessie tilted her head. "I didn't mean to. The wind took it." She dipped her nose in the water and made a small ripple. Then she swam up close and gave Finn a little bump with her snout, gentle, forgiving. Finn smiled a little. "Thanks. But if someone finds it, they could discover your hiding place." Nessie's smile faded. She swam in a slow circle, thinking. Suddenly, from the far side of the loch, a voice rang out. "Whoa, what do we have here?" It was the cameraman. In his hand, the missing sketch. Finn's heart stopped. "Oh no," he whispered. "He found it." Nessie ducked beneath the water. The man looked at the drawing, then toward the lake. "Treasure cave, huh? Looks like our little monster has secrets after all." He tucked the drawing into his vest and turned away. Finn sat frozen. He had to get it back, and fast. The next morning, Finn sat in his favorite spot under a tree, sketchbook balanced on his knees. Birds chirped above him, and the loch sparkled in the sunlight. Nessie hadn't shown up yet, but that was okay. He liked waiting. He was drawing. Not just any picture, this one was special. It showed Nessie swimming proudly in her treasure cave, surrounded by shiny stones and glass bottles. Finn had carefully shaded the beams of light, made sure her eyes were warm and curious, and even added his marble on the mossy rock. When he was done, he held it up proudly. "There," he whispered. "Perfect." He flipped to a new page and started designing something else, a secret sign to mark Nessie's cave. Not a big sign that tourists would notice, just something he and Nessie would understand. Maybe a swirl shape, like her marble. Or a frog riding a wave? He chuckled to himself. Then the wind picked up just a little. Finn didn't notice at first, but with one strong gust, the top page of his sketchbook fluttered and ripped free. "No, wait!" he shouted, jumping up. The drawing, the one of Nessie's cave, tumbled through the air like a leaf, over the rocks, past the reeds, and right into the bushes. Finn chased after it, heart pounding, but when he reached the thicket, it was gone. He searched under leaves, around tree roots, even checked the edge of the loch. Nothing. His stomach sank. "Oh no," he whispered. "What if someone finds it?" That afternoon, Finn sat by the water, quiet and worried. He didn't draw. He didn't talk. He just stared at the loch. A soft splash made him look up. Nessie rose gently from the water. Her eyes blinked at him with concern. "I lost something," Finn said. "A drawing of your cave." Nessie tilted her head. "I didn't mean to. The wind took it." She dipped her nose in the water and made a small ripple. Then she swam up close and gave Finn a little bump with her snout, gentle, forgiving. Finn smiled a little. "Thanks. But if someone finds it, they could discover your hiding place." Nessie's smile faded. She swam in a slow circle, thinking. Suddenly, from the far side of the loch, a voice rang out. "Whoa! What do we have here?" It was the cameraman. In his hand, the missing sketch. Finn's heart stopped. "Oh no," he whispered. "He found it." Nessie ducked beneath the water. The man looked at the drawing, then toward the lake. "Treasure cave, huh? Looks like our little monster has secrets after all." He tucked the drawing into his vest and turned away. Finn sat frozen. He had to get it back, and fast. The morning after their wild adventure, Finn sat by the loch with his toes in the water and a goofy grin on his face. "We did it," he said to the ripples. "We really did it." A few feet away, a stream of bubbles rose to the surface. Blop, 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 followed by the smooth, smiling face of Nessie. She floated lazily on her back, her long green neck curled like a question mark. They had outsmarted the cameraman, saved the treasure cave, and gotten the drawing back. But Finn had been thinking, what if something like that happens again? He asked aloud. What if someone else finds something or hears me say too much? Nessie blinked and made a soft swirl with her tail. I think, Finn said slowly, we need a secret language, just for us. Nessie gave a tiny splash like she agreed. So that day, Finn and Nessie invented bubble talk. It started with the basics. One big bubble equals yes. Two small bubbles equals no. A swirl of bubbles equals I'm happy. A ring of bubbles equals I have an idea. A fountain of bubbles equals watch out. Nessie turned out to be an expert. She could make every kind of bubble. Big ones, tiny ones, bubbles that danced in circles or zigzagged across the surface. She even managed a heart-shaped bubble once, though Finn thought maybe it was by accident. Finn practiced too. He'd tap the surface of the water in special rhythms, like a drum. Tap, pause, tap equals okay, tap 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 equals let's meet later. They laughed as they played, testing their codes. Sometimes Finn got the meanings wrong and ended up offering Nessie a frog instead of a rock. Sometimes Nessie responded with such a huge fountain of bubbles that it made Finn fall backwards into the mud. But they didn't mind. This was their language, a secret way to stay connected, even when they were far apart or if there were people around who couldn't be trusted. Later that afternoon, Finn sketched a bubble dictionary in his notebook. He labeled each shape, each swirl, each tap. We're like spies, he whispered. Nessie made a swirl of happy bubbles. Suddenly, Luma, a little bird that often perched nearby, let out a warning chirp. Finn looked up just in time to see a pair of binoculars flashing across the lake. Someone was watching again. Nessie gave one short tap with her nose and sent up a perfect ring of bubbles. Finn smiled. I got it. You have an idea. Nessie spun, dove, and disappeared below the surface. Finn closed his sketchbook. Whatever she was planning, it was going to be good. The next morning, Loch Ness was unusually busy. Canoes drifted slowly across the water. A group of tourists gathered on the far shore with snacks and zoom lens cameras. Someone even set up a folding chair labeled Monster Watcher Club. Finn frowned from behind a bush. Uh-oh, he whispered. Looks like word got out. The cameraman, yes, the same one who had chased Finn through the woods was there too. He stood with a fresh tripod and a new camera, scanning the lake like a hawk. Finn ducked lower. I hope Nessie stays hidden today. Just then, blop! A single bubble popped beside his foot. Finn looked up. Across the water, a stream of perfect spiral bubbles danced into the air. He smiled. Oh no, she's doing it anyway. Out in the middle of the loch, Nessie was putting on a show. She'd been practicing her best bubble tricks for days, and now she swirled and spun like a ballerina beneath the surface, sending up rings, fountains, spirals, and even bubble hearts all bursting softly in the air. The tourists gasped. Did you see that? Quick, take a photo. It's the Loch Ness monster, she's beautiful. Even the grumpy cameraman dropped his tea. Nessie arched her long green neck out of the water just a little and waved her flipper like a performer. She wasn't scared not anymore. She twirled once, sent a column of bubbles into the air, and dove with a splash that glittered in the sun. Everyone clapped, everyone cheered, except one person. Back on the bank, Finn wasn't smiling anymore. He knew Nessie was only trying to help to distract everyone so he could slip past and check her treasure cave. But now, all eyes were on her, and that made her vulnerable. He had to do something fast. Finn pulled out his emergency kit from his backpack. A bottle of bubble soap, a mirror, and a bright red rubber fish hat. He groaned. I really didn't want to wear this, but he tugged it on and ran down the opposite shore, waving his arms. Hey, big news! I saw a second Nessie over here. Half the group turned to look. Some pointed cameras at him. That's just a kid. But look at his hat. He's got bubbles too! The crowd started to drift toward Finn. And with the distraction working, Nessie quietly slipped under the water and vanished from sight. Later that evening, when the loch was calm again and the boats had gone, Nessie surfaced beside Finn. "You were amazing," he said, wiping lake water from his face. "But maybe next time we do a show, we get snacks afterward." Nessie let out a long blop of giggles, and from far away, the little bird Luma chirped high in the trees, watching the peaceful loch and the greatest show they'd ever seen. The weather changed overnight. By morning, soft gray clouds hung low over Loch Ness. A warm summer rain began to fall, gentle as a whisper. The drops tapped on leaves and rippled across the water like quiet applause. Finn didn't mind the rain. He wore his yellow raincoat and rubber boots and carried his notebook under his arm. He walked carefully down to the lake, humming a tune Nessie had once sung with her bubbles. To his surprise, Nessie was already there. She surfaced slowly, raindrops sliding off her long green neck. Her eyes looked different today, calm, but also thoughtful, maybe even a little wistful. Finn knelt by the water's edge. "You okay?" Nessie let out a quiet blob, then slowly turned her head toward the far side of the loch. Finn followed her gaze. There, half hidden by rain and reeds, was something large and still in the water. Not a boat, not a rock, something alive. Finn squinted. "Is that another Nessie?" Nessie swam forward gently. Finn stayed close, his heart fluttering. As they got nearer, the shape moved, a long neck lifted, tired but graceful. The creature had softer grayish-green scales, and her eyes, big and brown, blinked slowly, as if waking from a long nap. Nessie gave a soft trill, a greeting. The other creature, slightly smaller and older-looking, gave one in return. Finn whispered, "Is that your friend?" Nessie nodded slowly. Finn's heart filled with quiet wonder. "You haven't seen her in a long time, huh?" Another blop from Nessie. The older creature drifted forward and gently touched noses with Nessie. It was the softest, kindest moment Finn had ever seen. Like a hug made of water in memory. The rain continued to fall around them like music. Later that day, Nessie brought her old friend to the quiet side of the loch where the birds nested and no cameras ever came. Finn stayed back, letting them have time. He sat under a tree, sketching what he saw. Two shapes in the mist, side by side, almost like reflections. When Nessie returned, she gave Finn a look that said more than words ever could. She was happy, not just because her friend had returned, but because she now had two, one from the past and one from today. Finn smiled. Everyone needs someone who remembers who they used to be. Nessie let out a soft swirl of bubbles. A bubble heart drifted up between them, and for a little while, even the rain seemed to pause just to watch. The next day, the rain was gone, and the sun returned to Loch Ness like a smile. Finn had been planning something special. After all the adventures, chases, secret codes, and bubble shows, he and Nessie deserved a treat. "A real picnic," he said, laying out a red checkered blanket on the soft mossy shore. With everything. He pulled sandwiches from his backpack, peanut butter and banana, his favorite, and seaweed and jam. He thought Nessie might like it. There were also apples, cheese cubes, 2 cups of lemonade, and a tiny tin for Nessie's shiny pebbles. He even made a sign. Nessie and Finn's friendship picnic, no tourists allowed. Just then, a ripple spread across the loch. Nessie appeared, gliding through the water like sunlight on glass. She lifted her head, blinked at the blanket, and gave a surprised blah. "You're just in time," Finn said, grinning. Nessie swam close, sniffed the snacks, and licked the seaweed and jam sandwich. "Gulp. Guess that's a yes," Finn laughed. They sat together, one boy in muddy socks, one gentle sea creature sharing food, stories, and sunshine. But of course, nothing ever goes exactly as planned. From across the field came the soft patter of feet. Little feet, flappy feet, goose feet. A whole flock of curious geese waddled into view, honking like they owned the place. They spotted the food and charged. Honk, honk, honk. Finn's eyes went wide. Oh no! The geese attacked the picnic like it was a golden treasure. One stole a cheese cube, another pecked at the lemonade. A third tugged on the sign and ran away flapping. Hey, that's ours, Finn shouted, waving his arms. Nessie narrowed her eyes. She dipped her head underwater and rose behind the geese with a massive splash. Water sprayed like a geyser. The geese squawked, honked, and fled in a flurry of wings and feathers. One tripped over the peanut butter sandwich. Another fell into the tin of shiny stones. Nessie didn't chase them, she just gave one big boob, sending a ring of water after them like a royal goodbye. Finn fell over laughing. You saved the picnic, he cried. Later, soaked and smiling, Finn and Nessie finished the soggy sandwiches together. Finn lifted a pebble and gently placed it beside Nessie's favorite one. Today was perfect, he said. Nessie made a happy swirl of bubbles, because even with messy feathers, missing cheese, and stolen signs, any day spent with your best friend is a perfect day. The wind was gentle that morning. Leaves rustled in the trees, and the loch shimmered in the sunlight like a giant silver mirror. Finn sat near his usual spot by the water, but today he wasn't drawing or planning an adventure. He was holding a letter. It had arrived in the early morning by post. The envelope was crinkled, and the return address said, "From Mom and Dad, Big City." He opened it slowly. The handwriting was neat and familiar. Dear Finn, we hope you're enjoying your stay at the lake. Great news. Dad's work finished early, and we're ready to bring you home tomorrow. We can't wait to see you. Pack up your things, we'll be there in the afternoon. Love, Mom and Dad pair. Finn's heart sank. Tomorrow? He looked up at the loch, where dragonflies danced above the reeds. This had become his home. His real home, where he laughed, explored, and met the most magical creature in the world. How could he say goodbye? A soft blop echoed from the water. Nessie surfaced, blinking her round eyes. She saw the letter in Finn's hand and tilted her head. Finn tried to smile. I have to go, he said quietly. Nessie didn't move. I always knew I couldn't stay forever, he added. But I didn't think it would come so soon. He sat down, cross-legged in the grass. You showed me magic, Nessie. You showed me how to listen not just with ears, but with heart. A small swirl of bubbles drifted up. Nessie swam closer and gently nudged his shoulder with her snout. Finn reached into his backpack and pulled out something wrapped in cloth. It was his bubble dictionary. I want you to have this, he said. So even when I'm gone, you'll remember how we talked. Nessie took it carefully, curling it in her fin. Then she dove. For a moment, Finn thought she was gone. But just before he turned away, she returned with something shiny in her mouth. It was a smooth blue-green stone, shaped almost like a heart. She placed it gently in his hand. A gift. Something to remember her by. That night, Finn couldn't sleep. He sat by the window, watching the stars reflect in the loch. He held the heart-shaped stone in one hand and the letter in the other. He didn't know how to say goodbye. But maybe, just maybe, he wouldn't have to. Not yet. The morning sun peeked over the hills, golden and soft. The air smelled like wildflowers and cool stone. It was Finn's last day at the loch. His backpack sat neatly by the cottage door, already filled. His shoes were cleaned. His sketchbook was tucked safely inside, along with a smooth, blue-green heart-shaped stone from Nessie. But his heart felt heavy. Finn walked down to the lake one final time. He didn't run or skip like usual. His steps were slow, careful. like each one would make time move faster. He sat on the same patch of grass where he first saw her Nessie, the Loch Ness monster who wasn't a monster at all. She wasn't there yet. He waited. Then blop. Tiny bubbles rose from the middle of the loch. And then came the familiar ripple, the swirl, and the soft green shimmer of her neck. Nessie had come. Finn stood. "I wanted to say goodbye," he said quietly. Nessie let out a long, low note, part bubble, part hum. Sad, but gentle. She swam closer, her eyes soft and full of something more than words. "I don't want to forget you," Finn whispered. Nessie tilted her head, then disappeared beneath the surface without a sound. Finn blinked. "Wait!" Suddenly, the water glowed. Glittering shapes, made of light and bubbles, began to rise from the loch. A spiral of bubble rings, each glowing faintly blue, circled in the air. In the center, Nessie surfaced again, but this time, she wasn't alone. From behind her rose dozens of little glowing creatures, minnows made of mist, fish with scales that sparkled like stars, and soft glowing frogs that bounced on leaves. Finn gasped. "Whoa!" Nessie swirled through them, and together they danced, spinning, diving, leaping into the air. A performance, a gift, a final memory. Finn clapped his hands. "You made this! For me?" Nessie lifted her head high and sent a single, perfect bubble heart drifting toward him. It landed in his hands without popping, as if it wanted to stay. Finn laughed and cried at the same time. He reached into his backpack and pulled out one last thing, a second sketchbook. He had drawn every moment, every laugh, every splash, every bubble. He walked to the edge of the water and laid it gently on a flat stone. "For you," he said. Nessie pressed her snout to it, and then, without words, they looked at each other. Not a goodbye, just until next time. The city was noisy. Buses rumbled past tall gray buildings. People talked quickly on phones. Horns honked, lights blinked, and crosswalks buzzed like robot bees. Finn sat on the edge of his bed, looking out the window at the rows of rooftops. It had been a week since he left Loch Ness. His backpack still leaned in the corner. The heart-shaped stone Nessie gave him now sat on the windowsill. And his new sketchbook full of city streets and buildings didn't feel half as magical as the one he'd left behind. He missed the quiet ripples, the bubble games, the way Nessie always seemed to understand, even without words. Maybe it was just a dream, Finn whispered to himself. Just then, ding-dong, the doorbell rang downstairs. "Finn, there's something for you," his mom called. Finn hurried down. On the front step sat a small wooden box, no return address, no stamp. Just a swirl symbol on the lid. Finn's eyes lit up. He opened it slowly. Inside was a tiny bottle of water, sealed tight, with 3 perfect bubble rings floating inside. A smooth, flat pebble with a heart scratched into the surface, and a single piece of folded paper. He opened the paper. It wasn't a drawing. It wasn't a letter. It was a code made of circles, swirls, taps, and arrows. Bubble talk. A secret message. Finn sat down right there on the doorstep, laughing and crying all at once. Nessie hadn't forgotten him. And somewhere deep in a secret loch full of wonder and shining stones, she was still bubbling, waiting, watching, hoping he'd come back someday. Gifting. The end. Or just the beginning?